All right, welcome everybody. This is Lance Luke, the National Building Expert, part of the Ask the Building Expert series. We're here to give you some information about construction. So that's the topic today. And we actually do these series of webinars to help building owners, homeowners, property managers, attorneys, architects, or anybody that's interested in the topic. So this webinar is presented by Construction Management Inspection, which is a construction management company that I own based in Honolulu, Hawaii. I know there's people that are online from the United States, but also various parts of the world. So welcome. Thank you for joining. We have our back-end people running the Zoom webinar and all that. And they're in the Philippines. So I had to wake them up because it's like 3 a.m. in the morning, but thanks for getting up early. Before we start, I always announce the National Day, and today is National Weed Your Garden Day, but I'm not going to follow that because by the time I come home, it's going to be dark. So it's also National Safety Month, and I'm always a stickler for safety on construction sites, but it could be safety on buildings too that are already built. So this is the first time we're live streaming on LinkedIn. We usually live stream on Zoom and on Facebook, but we just decided to add LinkedIn for a broader audience. So let's get right to the topic. 7 stages of construction. So you may ask, well, 7 stages, is that all? But actually, there's probably hundreds of stages of construction, but we're going to cover just the main basic topics. So the main topics in general is divided into 7 sections or 7 stages. And I'm going to talk to you briefly about the stages of construction. And what I'm going to give you is applicable to both if you're building a home or you're remodeling or you're in charge of a 40-story billion-dollar high-rise building. It's basically all the same as far as the protocol and the procedures. It's just that the type of building may be different. It could be one single family house, it could be a townhouse complex, or it could be a huge shopping center or hotel or apartment building or a condo building. So it's basically the same kind of procedure. So I'll give you the brief rundown. So we're talking about the first thing that comes into play, and it's not even actually construction per se, it's planning. So it's planning, decide on, let's say it's a vacant piece of property, you have land, and you decide to build a structure on that property. Let's say it's a condominium building. Okay, so you got to plan on how we're going to do this. Where's the building going to be on the property, and how is it going to be designed and all that. So there's entitlements, and what that means is there's utilities, there's land use, and there's also utilities involved. So any kind of building, you're going to need water, maybe gas, you're going to need electricity, and you're going to need some kind of communication services, whether it's a telephone or cable to access internet and that kind of thing. So all those factors you got to take into consideration. So that's in the groundwork stage in entitlement. The other thing is the design. So a owner or a developer would hire a design team consisting of the architect, who's the lead person, and that lead person would hire other design consultants such as engineers. So you have geotechnical, which is soil engineering, you have structural engineers, you have your landscape architect, you have mechanical engineer, electrical engineer, you got air conditioning, specialized air conditioning. You have an engineer for that. You have fire protection, such as fire sprinklers, fire alarm system. That's a special fire protection engineer. So there could be maybe 10 to 15 different engineers, all taking part in their own respective design for the project. So what happens is each of the engineers draw their plans and specs, and then they give it to the architect, and the architect is the one that combines all the plans together into one blueprint or one building plan. And that's the plan that's reviewed by the developer or homeowner. And then when it's fully approved by the design team, then it goes to the building department to get the building permit to start construction. Okay, so that's basically the planning and design stage. Then there's also the bidding stage, which I'm going to talk to you about later. But let's say the owner hired the contractor, okay, after negotiation. So the contractor's hired. Now, what does a contractor do? There's site preparation. You got a piece of land with nothing going on. If you have a house, maybe the house is just going to be built right on top of the piece of land. But if you have a shopping center or a huge hotel or condominium building, they're going to have to dig down, excavation, and how many floors down into basement until they can build the foundation. Okay, so that's all part of the site preparation. And then where your roads are, where's your parking, that's all planned for in advance. Okay, and then once the foundation is set, and it could be any type of foundation, it could be concrete. If it's a building, if it's a house, it could be concrete, or it could be a different type, maybe wood frame construction. Okay, but the next step after the foundation is the framing. So framing, you could have wood frame, you could have steel frame, you could have different kind of framing material, and then the walls go up. Okay, so you're going to see all these frame walls that are basically see-through because you don't have the drywall put up yet. Okay, so once the framing is in, you don't cover the frame with drywall yet. You have to run your plumbing, electrical, and your air conditioning lines in. So that's the next step. Running all your electrical, plumbing, air conditioning, and whatever else you need. Sometimes it's telephone lines, cable lines, and all that for internet. Then after that's completed, then your insulation in the walls go in and your drywall. So most times the material used is drywall. So the drywall is used to close up walls, ceilings. The floor is going to be made of concrete or wood, so there's no covering there except the floor covering. Okay, so basically that's the kind of stage that we're looking at. And then there's all kind of finishing after that. Okay, finishing means you have all your plumbing fixtures, electrical fixtures, whatever else. Let's take a kitchen. So if it's a condo unit, in order to finish the kitchen, you're going to have to bring your cabinets, countertops, your flooring, all your plumbing fixtures for your sinks, and then later on after that, your appliances, and of course, lighting. So basically that's kind of a fast thing. And then once that's finished, then the last step is your punch list inspection. So if you're the owner or developer, you're going to do a walkthrough with the contractor and walk around and point out things that maybe it was missed. Maybe there's paint that's missing, there's a nick in the drywall, or some wires are hanging and it should be enclosed in an electrical junction box, that kind of thing. So basically, that's the stages of construction. So, and that's one part of it. Okay, so let me continue with my slideshow here. Okay, so design and bidding, actually, that's not one stage, it's two separate stages, the design stage and then the bidding stage. So what happens, like I mentioned before, is your designer, your team, design team, which consists of your project architect and various engineers, they're the ones that are working on your architectural plans and specifications. And for a single family house, it may take 2 to 3 months to design. For a 40-story high-rise building, it may take 2 years. Okay, so that's the difference in scope of project and the type of work, because there's many more moving parts in a high-rise condo building or apartment building as compared to, one house. So let's say the architectural plans and specs are all completed. The next step is you want to know how much it's going to cost to build this building. Okay, and remember, it doesn't matter if it's one house or one big shopping center or a hotel. It's pretty much the same process. Okay, so you have the architectural plans and specs, and normally whoever's in charge of the bidding portion, they issue a RFP. That means a request for proposal, and the request would state, here's what I want you, the contractor, to bid on, and describe the type of project. Okay, so if it's a single family house, it'll be we're building a 2,000 square foot single family house, and here's the address. The lot is flat, or maybe the lot isn't flat. You're going to specify that the lot is sloped or a terrace lot, and together with the architectural plans and specs, hopefully you have a survey, and there's a topo map, which is a topographical map. And what that does is it sets the elevation. So if you have a flat lot, you don't really need a topo map. But if you have a slope lot or any other type of lot that's not flat, terrace and all that, the contractor is going to need to know where the lines are, the elevation, so he can bid accordingly. Okay, so the request for proposals is basically an outline telling the contractor, here's what I need you to bid on. Here's the following scope that you need to bid on. Included with the RFP is a whole set of architectural plans and specs. And here's also a guideline on how I want you to bid. And sometimes a guideline may say, I need you to name all your subcontractors. I need you to list down the costs of each subcontractor. And I need you to list down and give a breakdown of all your costs, okay, and a schedule of values. And what that means is for every component in the building, there's a separate schedule for. So for instance, you have site work, okay? Site work is X amount of dollars, electrical is X amount, plumbing is X amount. So it's all broken down into scope. Okay, and that's a way that your construction manager or your owner can look at that proposal and see when they're looking at contractor bids, and one contractor is super high and the other one, or the other two are lower, and you look at each line item, and then you may question, well, why is this contractor's bid so high? Well, look, he put down, 300,000 for electrical, and the other guy put 200. So, why is the guy charging so much? Or, was something missed? Did he double count? So that's like a cross check. Okay, and then usually there's a bid walk, and what that means is everyone gets the RFP and the request for meeting at the job site, right, with your RFP, and we're gonna walk around the property. Now, it's kind of difficult when it's just a piece of vacant land, okay? But in situations where the building's already built and they're just doing renovation and the building's already there, so it's easy to walk around and take the contractor around and show them the building and say, hey, look, here's our 5-story apartment building. I'm going to need you to give us a price on spalling repair and painting and, whatever else you can see. So that's kind of a job that I mostly do. I don't do too many new construction except for houses. And I do inspections of new construction, but I'm on those, I'm basically just the inspector. On existing buildings, I'm hired as a construction manager and the building's already there, so it makes it easier to do a tour, walk around. We start from the ground, we walk around the building, we go inside the building, walk up to the roof and have the contractor take their notes and all that, and I'm there asking questions. And then after the bid walk's done, there may be an addendum to the RFP based on certain parameters or questions that were raised by the contractors, by the various contractors that were asked to bid. Okay, so design and bidding, that's 2 stages of the construction. Okay, what do we have next? The pre-construction. Okay, so let's fast forward to we're finished with the bid walk. The contractors turned their bids in, their proposals. It was analyzed and presented to the owner or developer, and the owner selected one contractor and signed the contract. So the next step would be the pre-construction. And what does that mean? Well, that means you have a meeting before any construction started, and you have what's called and it may be a series of meetings, okay, not just one. Okay, and the term is a pre-con meeting, and con stands for construction, so it's a pre-construction meeting. And normally you would meet at the property, or you could meet at anyone's office if you're just talking story. But usually the last meeting or second to the last pre-con meeting is you're meeting at the property, because you're gonna be discussing, where are you going to build the road to get in, where are you going to put your tower crane, where's the location of the parking, how are we going to configure this thing, do a layout. You're going to have one area designated just for materials, stockpiling of materials. Okay, if you're doing grading, you have to designate an area to stockpile dirt that's coming out if you're going to reuse it. Okay, so there's a lot of fine tuning that goes into this whole pre-construction meeting, and sometimes this meeting can last several hours. Okay, so when I have my pre-construction meeting, it only lasts probably 1 hour, hour and a half at the most. Okay, because most of these things are discussed already ahead of time, and we're only looking at things that pop up at the time, or the contractor has questions about access to the site, security, all that stuff, even down to like where the porta potties are going to be located. You can't forget about that, right? So there's normally on bigger jobs, there's a construction trailer that's brought in, and it's on wheels. It's like a mobile office, basically air conditioned, and they have all these cubicles for people to work. There's a conference table area for building plans. The conference table is big enough so you can roll out several building plans, and different people can look at it all the time if they need to. And then it's a whole office. There's like computers, copiers, a big screen TV for Zoom meetings and all that. So it's pretty intense. There's like a refrigerator, a whole cabinet full of snacks and whatever else. So it's one of those niceties, okay? And these are basically on big construction projects. If you have a small project such as a house or renovation, you're not going to have a construction trailer or anything like that, right? So it just conforms with the scope of the project, right? So basically, that's the pre-construction stage. Now, what's the next stage? Procurement. Now, the procurement normally is really big on government type projects, government type construction projects. But the contractor basically is in charge of procurement, not the owner necessarily. Okay, so the contractor is in charge of purchasing building materials and equipment, whatever equipment he's going to use. If he doesn't already have it, like small cranes or lifts and all that, he's going to have to either rent it or buy it. Okay, and that's on the contractor. Now, also on the contractor is building materials. Whatever is required to build the house or the building, the contractor has to go and order it, right? And in the past, with the pandemic, we had such a shortage of building materials, right? Supply chain problems, you can't get certain materials. Then all of a sudden, when you can't get the order, you get the email that the price increased by 20%, right? So it's just shocking. So, and it still goes on today. You know, I'm getting emails and letters from building suppliers that effective on this date, they're increasing their pricing. So therefore, who pays for the increase in price? The consumer does, the homeowner does, you know, the developer does, and then it trickles down, right? So it's all relative. So buying all the equipment and what's needed is the procurement process. And then there's the actual construction. So it could be a fast construction, 3 months if it's a small home renovation, in and out, or it could be 2 years or longer if it's a huge high-rise building, right? So that's the construction portion of it. And if you can see the image, construction phases, like I mentioned, there's different phases of construction. And if they're doing a high-rise building, you're going to see a tower crane, and you got every floor, they're bringing concrete up, you know, with the tower crane, and that's how they're constructing the building. So if it's a 40-story building, the tower crane has to be higher than 40 stories, right? Because they got to be able to go past your roof, the roof line of the building. So once they set the tower crane, they're not going to take it down until the end. So it has to be designed where it's high enough to clear, you know, the roof of the finished building, right? Now, let's say they finish all the construction and then they're ready to rock and roll. They're ready to open up the building, okay? But they can't, because there's all this equipment. You got cooling towers for air conditioning, you got electrical, you got plumbing. That electrical and mechanical has to be energized, right? And it has to be tested. And the word commissioning comes in, and you know, that's just a kind of interesting term for, yeah, we energize everything, we tested it, and now it's good to go. Okay, so that's what commissioning really means. So all your heavy equipment are all tested, inspected, signed off and all that, and commissioning. So once all this equipment is commissioned, then the contractor can turn everything over, including the building, you know, to the owner and the developer. Okay, and right now I'm talking about big buildings, high-rise condos, hotels, shopping centers, because on a regular house, you're not going to have these huge cooling towers that you see, you know, in the photo. Okay, now let's say all that's done. Are we done yet? Well, not really. What else do we have? Okay, we have what's called a certificate of occupancy, or certificate of substantial completion. Now, in certain states or jurisdictions throughout the United States, there's a different term. Okay, substantial completion is basically known worldwide. The CO, certificate of occupancy, is the term may be a little different in different jurisdictions. Okay, some people call it an occupancy certificate. Some say it's a license to occupy. And then also in different parts of the world, that term is maybe a little different, but it basically means the same thing. It means that the governmental agency that was in charge of the building code and inspecting and all that, inspected the property and said, all right, everything looks okay. Here's your certificate of occupancy. You can now, occupy the building, okay? Which is different from substantial completion. Substantial completion is basically a term used by the contractor to tell the owner, we're substantially complete, pay us our money, and we're still going to finish, the minor punch list stuff. Okay, so the two terms are maybe use the same, but it's really a little different. Okay, now the certificate of occupancy, and any construction contract should have that clause in that says we're going to build this house or building, and it's going to be built such that we're going to get our certificate of occupancy, or we're going to be allowed to complete, and then you can move in. Okay, now there's various degrees of occupancy and completion. Well, let's talk about when a building can be occupied. If it's a condo or apartment building, okay, your certificate of occupancy means that the owners and tenants can move in. Okay, there's no restriction. When the building's under construction, they can't even come to the project site because safety reasons, right? So they basically have to wait until they get the all clear, everyone signs off, and then they're allowed to move in. Now, same thing with commercial buildings, shopping centers. It could be retail, it could be office buildings, same thing. Now, sometimes on a shopping center, if they're building certain wings, the developer may be able to get a certificate of occupancy for phase A and not for phase B and C because it's still under construction. Okay, so that's a way where they can allow people to move in when the whole project is not finished yet, if it's phased. Okay, same thing with a high-rise condo building. You can get a partial certificate of occupancy and then allow people to move in, or close on the units, allow people to move in on lower floors while they're still building the higher floors. But that really takes some finagling because there's a lot of work involved in safety. Okay, so on a shopping center, okay, when you get the certificate of occupancy, that means that tenants can start their tenant improvements. So basically, if you're developing a shopping center, okay, all you're building is shells, you're building empty spaces, and then you lease it out to a tenant. And when a tenant takes over, he's basically giving, this shell that he leased, and then the tenant has to make his own tenant improvements. So let's say it's a Starbucks restaurant, okay? So, and it's in a shopping center. And the shopping center could be 2 stories, it could be a high-rise shopping center, whatever the case is. So Starbucks gets this vacant space, and then they hire their own contractor to build the tenant improvements. And what's the tenant improvements? The tenant improvements is anything to do with finishing the restaurant, the walls, the flooring, electrical, plumbing, and all that. And it's all space plan. It's designed specifically for that specific tenant. Now, there's times where there's a deal with the shopping center owner, and part of the deal is that the tenant says to the shopping center owner, I want you to build the space for me, and then I'll move in. But it's rare today. Normally, the commercial owners, in fact, office buildings are the same way, okay? And retail stores, they basically have a shell because developer doesn't know what the parameters are for a Nordstrom store, a Macy's, or a Starbucks coffee place or whatever. They don't know. So they're saying, we're going to lease you this space and you build it up the way you want to. Okay. So that's tenant improvements. And then the tenant actually has to get their own certificate of occupancy for their designated space, be it a coffee place, a restaurant, or a clothing store, jewelry store, or whatever. Okay. Then let's talk about hotels, educational facilities, medical facilities. They all need their special inspections. So certificate of occupancy usually is issued. There may be more than one. Okay. So the first one is issued for the building itself, and it's vacant. Okay, so let's take a hospital. Okay, the government issues a certificate based on the inspection of the shell, but then you can't open yet because you need the health department and you need all these other departments to sign off on special inspections. They got to make sure that the oxygen tanks are not leaking. You got all this special equipment for medical. You got your x-ray machines, you got your MRI machines, which cost millions of dollars, and all that. So that's a whole separate certificate for that. So there may be numerous certificates. In fact, if you're opening a restaurant in, let's say, office building that was recently built, the office building itself has a certificate, but when you finish building the restaurant, you need your own occupancy permit and permit to operate from the health department and whatever other agencies are involved. Okay, so there's a lot of things that go into this. So, and then the project closeout. So before the contractor's paid, there's actually a final punch list done. Walk around and look at the flooring, the walls, the ceiling, turn on the air conditioning. In some cases, the air conditioning is not balanced, so that if you have an office space, you have one area where they're freezing to death, and then another area of the room, they need to fan themselves because there's a difference in temperature. That means the AC wasn't balanced to begin with. So all those things need to be accounted for and written down in a punch list so it can be fixed. Okay, and then their warranty documents. So for every building product that comes with a warranty, you as the owner are going to need to get those documents. So in other words, let's take a single family house. Okay, so you have your siding, you have your windows, doors, you have your roof, let's say it's asphalt shingle. All those are covered under separate warranty from the manufacturer, the building manufacturer. So you want to get the paperwork because you want to make sure that you know what's in the warranty. How long is the roof warranty for? And what happens when shingles blow off the roof? Can I make a claim under the warranty? Right? So you want to know all these things. Okay. So can you imagine on a big high-rise condo, you're going to get a 3-ring binder full of warranty documents, or you may get several binders. Okay. So part of the project closeout is completing the punch list stuff. And then also there's a demarcation line where the contractor that built the building stops doing any work and the building maintenance guys have to take over. So make sure that the maintenance documents are turned over to you. So you guys know how to maintain, whatever it is that you're accepting. Okay. So if it's a roof, it's mechanical equipment, air conditioning, you want all the documents, and the documents are not only the warranty documents, but the use documents. How do I maintain this? So let's say waterproofing of your parking deck. Well, what am I supposed to do? How am I supposed to clean the parking deck, right? What kind of solution am I supposed to use to clean the parking deck, right? What kind of pressure am I going to be using if I'm going to pressure wash? You need to know all these things, because if you don't and you just go, well, let's just, the deck's dirty, let's bring our pressure washer and crank this baby up to 3,500 PSI, and then you got a good stream and you're cleaning the dirt and it's looking nice, and all of a sudden you realize that your new waterproofing is coming off because your spray nozzle was set too high, right? So, and then you call the contractor up, said, oh yeah, the waterproofing had come off when we were cleaning the deck. And the contractor comes in and looks at it, goes, whoa, wait a minute, how did you clean this thing? It's not supposed to come off like that. And then you tell him, oh, well, yeah, we use a pressure washer. And then he goes, oh, wait a minute, I'm not covering there's no warranty for this because you guys didn't even read the instructions. It says you can only use 1,200 PSI and you can only use this certain soap. You can't use this other soap because it's not compatible with the material. So, just a heads up, you really got to make sure you have your maintenance guys read all the paperwork. If you're a homeowner, read the paperwork also. Don't just file it away and it's going to collect dust, right? You got to know, because it may cost a lot of money if you don't do things the right way. Okay, so that's the end. Hopefully you guys learned something. I have, let me see. So part of our webinar series, we give out 2 webinars a month on building and construction. So if you go to our website, and I'll give you the website information a little later, we've given webinars on all kind of topics: roofing, hurricane ties, electrical, plumbing, sound insulation for flooring. There's a whole bunch. It's listed on our website. So that's what you miss. And it's all available online on demand. And it's free. You don't need a Netflix account or anything. You just go whenever you want. And then what's coming up? We have webinars coming up. The next webinar is 14 types of building structure components. And we get into the nitty-gritty on electrical, roof, carpentry, and all that. And then briefly, what's coming up is Aloha Stadium, from rust to dust, the real estate development process. I'm taking you from start to finish. Water damage, flood remediation. Here's another interesting one: construction defect litigation cases. And that applies to not only houses, but any type of commercial building. And then next is renovation is no vacation. If you're planning on remodeling or renovating your house, you might be interested in attending that one. I'm giving you tips on how to deal with your contractor. And then I'm switching gears. So I'm giving a real estate seller disclosure webinar. That has really nothing to do with construction or building, more real estate, but I think that's going to help. And then after that is international residential code, and then cliff dwelling construction. And then I got a bunch more that you can check out and sign up as you please. So here's our website, askbuildingexpert.now.site, and that has all kind of interesting information. Like I said, there's all the webinars listed that you can watch on demand. We have some free handouts. We have some free books. We have our awesome book club. You can sign up and get a free book of the month on building and construction topics. We have that going on. And a bunch of other stuff. So I would say go check out our website. And then now it's Q&A time. So if you have any questions, I got the answers. If you need to get a hold of me, Lance Luke, phone number 808-422-2132. If you're calling from anywhere around the world, or even if you're in Hawaii calling, be sure to use 808 because otherwise you won't get through. And then my email, lanceluke@hawaiibuildingexpert.com. So right now I got some questions that came in during the webinar. So I'm gonna ask them, and then after that, I'll check with our host and other admin to see if there's anybody that posted questions or comments on our social media and even on our Zoom platform. So the first question that came in, what are the key stages involved in the construction process and how do they impact the final outcome of a building project? So basically, through my presentation, I went over the major stages of construction. It even started off with the design and then the planning. Okay, so all of these stages are important. You can't miss one. And as far as the impact on the final outcome, if there's a mix-up on any one of those stages, it's going to mess up your entire project. Okay, so if there's not enough building materials ordered on time, or the design wasn't correct, okay, that's going to cause delays and aggravation and all that. So it's incumbent upon everybody that's involved, not only the homeowner and not only the contractor or the developer, but everyone should be a team, work together as a team to achieve the final goal. What's the final goal? The final goal is we want this house completed, or we want this building completed, right? And whoever wants to get involved should. If you have something to say, I think you should bring it up and let the contractor say, no, that's really not an issue. We got it covered, or we're going to fix it, or something like that. So the next question is, and I know there's some building managers online, and so maybe it came from a building manager. So anyway, how can building managers effectively manage the various stages of construction to ensure timely completion and quality workmanship? Okay, the answer to that question is you hire a consultant. Okay, if you're a condo manager, a site manager, general manager, or resident manager, okay, you're not expected to manage the project on your own. Maybe you have to, but always recommend to the board that they hire a construction expert, a construction manager, or construction consultant to be there helping manage the whole construction project, okay? Because that's what they do full time, right? Your job full time is managing the building, not managing construction, okay? So, but I can give you some tips on what to do. If you are managing the project yourself, okay, you make sure that there's proper inspections being done before the contractor's paid. And normally the contractor submits their pay request every month. So you want to inspect every month. But how are you able to sign off on it? Who signs off? What if it's a 40-story building and they're doing spalling repair? Are you going to ride the rig, up to the 39th floor and inspect spalling repair? I don't think so. That's where the construction managers and the construction consultants come into play. Okay, so if you have other questions, just reach out and then I can answer your specific questions. Next question: what challenges do construction teams commonly face, and how can they overcome these obstacles? Well, okay, so let me let you know this. Although the topic is construction and building, right? And and you're in the construction business, right? You're not really in the construction business per se. I always tell the contractor or condo board members or the owner or developer says, you're in the people business, really. If you cannot communicate with people in a professional and effective manner, you're really not going to get anywhere. So although like I'm a construction manager and I monitor construction, inspect construction, engineering and all that, I'm really in the people business, because if I can't communicate properly with the contractor and we can't get along, we butt heads, guess how far that's going to go? We're not even going to complete the project on time. So it's a matter of communication skills, not only construction and building skills, but you have to have good communication, right? And you have to communicate often. You cannot just not talk to anybody. Okay, so I think that's the most important thing to overcome the obstacles. The rest are technical in nature. And then last question that I got come in: what strategies can be implemented to streamline the construction process, minimize delays, and ensure the successful delivery of a project on time and within budget? Well, the strategies would be, like I said, good communication, more communication, better communication. And if you think you're not communicating, or maybe you're over communicating, you can never over communicate. On a certain project, I may send 10 emails out to the contractor, and the contractor was like, hey, stop emailing me. I'm sick of reading your emails. I said, oh, sorry, I gotta let you know these things or answer these questions, right? Contractors are normally not too versed in paperwork and emails and all that. They're on a job site, right? They don't want to have to check their email and all of a sudden have 10 emails that they got to respond to, right? Same way with me. I'm not in an office all the time. I'm on a job site. I'm in a trench. I'm on a roof. I'm hanging from a building. I don't necessarily have time to go to meetings or check my email and all that. Like yesterday, for example, I was on job sites all day. I never checked my email for 7 hours, and that's rare. I try to check it often. So, my assistants are wondering, gee, did I go on vacation or what? But anyway, to answer the question, you really have to stay on top of it and ask the questions. Don't just ask it to yourself or ask your colleague, right? Pose it to the contractor. If you're a homeowner, ask the contractor. Don't be scared to talk. Even if they act rough or whatever. So, hey, I'm busy. I can't. Don't keep asking me all kind of questions. Well, hello, I'm the one that hired you. At least give me the courtesy of responding. You don't have to respond right away. Respond if it takes 3 days or you're too busy, fine. But if it's an emergency, I expect you to respond right away. Like if I call and say, hey, our roof's leaking, and you just put the roof on, I expect you to call me back right away and not take 3 days to do it while my house gets flooded, right? So these things, you just have to know the whole process. I've been doing this for 42 years now, and I think I pretty much know the whole process and procedure. But I'm going to reach out to the people that are on Zoom and our main hosts. Kyla, you have any questions on our chat or Q&A on our Zoom platform?
No, we don't have any.
Oh, I guess everybody understood what I said, or they got totally bored and they fell asleep. Okay,
Yeah.
good. So what about monitoring our Facebook and LinkedIn? Do we have anybody? Any questions, comments?
Islands, we don't so far.
Okay, good. So I thank you everybody for attending, and if you do have questions or comments, post it. Well, you're not, after we log off, you won't be able to post it on Zoom if you're on Zoom, but you can email me, or you can call. Now, if you're on Facebook or LinkedIn, you can make your comments or posts directly to the platform, and then we'll check it out and respond. And it's fun. We enjoy doing this and helping people. And the best part is it's free. You don't have to pay. So take advantage now, because in the future we may need to charge admission. So once again, thank you, everybody. I thank our host and our back office people, because they had to get up at 3 a.m. in the Philippines. So, oh, by the way, you can't go back to sleep now. You got to continue working since you're up already. So anyway, thank you, everybody. Those are on Zoom platform, on Facebook, on LinkedIn. Tune in again for the next webinar, and we'll do it again. Thank you very much, and aloha from Hawaii.
I already stopped.